Hello and welcome to all the attendees for today's webinar. This webinar is part of our webinar series and is hosted by Aarialife Technologies and Rsmart today. As a NetSuite partner globally, we at Aarialife are understandably proponents of the number one cloud ERP, that is Oracle NetSuite. My name is Chirag Joshi and I head our operations in North America for Aarialife Technologies. For today's session, we've partnered with our leading native NetSuite suite app, which is Rsmart, represented by Ruth Rosenstock and Kyle McClinton. Rsmart, ladies and gentlemen, is the leading warehouse management solution available on suiteapp.com, that is NetSuite's app store. Our objective for today's webinar is to bring forth the knowledge and understanding of why NetSuite is such an extensible ERP platform. In today's session, we will be exploring how Rsmart as a native NetSuite suite app can help NetSuite customers easily manage and gain efficiencies in their warehouse operations. The advantages gained are better customer satisfaction via predictable order fulfillment, visibility and accuracy into your inventory. In order to better meet the expectations of our attendees, we've taken the liberty of preparing an agenda. At the same time, so we can address some of your key points of curiosity for our attendees, please do participate in the poll questions that would be available on the left-hand side of your screen. Look for the red dot. So I've posted a few poll questions. Please do answer them. Okay. Okay. All right. So with that, we're gonna move on to the next part. So a brief introduction to Aarialife Technologies. We think of ourselves as a global NetSuite partner in that we are a solution partner in North America and India, and an alliance partner in the Middle East, along with being an SDN partner as well. Similar to our partner Rsmart, while they are masters of the WMS world, we have launched our Canadian payroll app for NetSuite. Our team of NetSuite experts has been part of the NetSuite ecosystem in one form or another for over a decade. We currently serve customers in about 16 countries across various industry verticals with our presence in Canada, UAE, and India. So with that, I will pass the baton over to Ruth for the next part of our webinar today.
Super. Thank you so much. I think I'm just going to get control here and we should be good. There we go. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. We're excited to be on this webinar and share a little bit about Rsmart, how we can create some efficiencies within your warehouse by the combination of NetSuite and Rsmart. And we're really happy to be partnering with Aarialife on this. So just to start, so as was mentioned earlier, my name is Ruth Rosenstock, and I'm a partner manager here at Rsmart. I've been here for just over a year, and I actually spent my 10 years prior at NetSuite selling directly in the product space. So it's something that I'm extremely familiar with. And joining me on the demo side of it is Kyle McClinton. He's our solution consultant. He's based here in Jacksonville, where Rsmart's home office is, and he'll be taking us through Rsmart and NetSuite combined to give you a good visibility of how the solution works. Prior to Kyle being a solution consultant here at Rsmart, he was actually a business analyst. So he is extremely familiar with the internal workings of Rsmart and will do a fantastic job presenting. So moving on, we touched a little bit on Rsmart being an SDN partner of Rsmart. And if you're familiar with Rsmart, they have a very valued end of their business called the SDN Network, which is a solution developer network. NetSuite really developed this because it helps expand the value and the capability and functionality for organizations that take on, a really terrific platform like NetSuite. On the left-hand side, you can see, I'm sure this looks familiar if you've been in there, you can see there's lots of different partners that focus on taxation or maybe EDI. And then we've got ourselves here at Rsmart, and we focus on warehouse management. So the best way to kind of think about that is we take the great functionality that NetSuite has, we add a mobile component. So when you are in a warehouse or maybe even a production site from a manufacturing level, you're able to scan products. So this really helps with efficiencies in any of those environments and really helps create more money to the bottom line. You can see, when you go onto the SDN network, you can click Rsmart. There's lots of reviews there, lots of customer testimonials. And what's really nice about that is you can see the different businesses that work with Rsmart as well. So I encourage you to take a look at that if you're interested in looking more. And then I'll give you a little bit of background. I mean, some may know about Rsmart, but we talked about the functionality that we have when we work as an SDM partner for NetSuite. But really what I kind of want to concentrate on this slide is we've been around for a long time. So Rsmart started 35 plus years ago in the warehouse management space. So, back then we're really kind of looking at on-premise solutions and things like that. So we've got a small group of customers that still run like that. But then what's really growing, what's been growing, through the many years is cloud solutions, NetSuite being one of them. But what I kind of want you to take away from this slide is that we've got many years of extensive supply chain and management experience. We've got more than 2,000 plus warehouse storeroom implementations. So think about all the walkthroughs we do. Think about a lot of the best practices we see. We understand what many different companies are doing from different levels. From a support standpoint, this is a software company and a hardware company when it comes to mobile devices, and a company that will support you through your business. And we have that with 24/7 support. We've got an account management team that looks after you and helps you grow your business. I mean, businesses change all the time. We know that. We've certainly gone through a big change over the last year. So just think in mind that you're really supported and partnered with a company like Rsmart. And then we're solely focused on the warehouse. NetSuite is a fantastic platform. It's got a lot of functionality, but warehouse operations, whether that's manufacturing or distribution, are really important to organizations because really that's the bread and butter. So you want to make sure the efficiency is there. So we've got lots of focus obviously in that area as well. We talked about being an SDN network partner. This is a great group of people, and it comes in a lot of different versions. So we've got an integrated suite app, we've got a hybrid suite app, both fantastic. The only difference is that they're connected to NetSuite, so you're kind of working with a separate data source, whether that's a database with their solution, and then the end result gets moved into NetSuite, and then is sort of put into the ERP system, so you've got that real-time interface. When it comes to Rsmart, we're unique. We're what's called a native suite app. So what that means is that we're built right on top of the NetSuite platform. And that means that it also doesn't work without NetSuite. So it's not a separate platform, and it takes on the characteristics of NetSuite. So as an end user, you're working in NetSuite all the time, other than the mobile handheld that you would have, out in the warehouse and things like that. But there's not really sort of a syncing process because they're not separate systems. It's really taking on the inherent characteristics of NetSuite. So why Rsmart? I mean, there's lots of solutions out there, and we've sort of talked a little bit earlier, and I won't read through each one, but really we're an out-of-the-box solution. So we talked about being built directly on the NetSuite platform. We are a 360 solution provider, software service support. We have hardware service support. We work together, so it's not separated where you're calling support for one thing and the other. We can keep this all together. We have that extensive supply chain experience, given the years, given the number of customers we have here at Rsmart. And then when we talk about those customers, it's actually 1,100 plus customers that we have. But really, that's kind of talking about the experience that we touched on earlier as well. I'm going to bring up the experience again, is I wanted to give you a little bit of history. So we talked about Rsmart really starting 35 years ago, but when we look at the NetSuite space, this really came to light around 2012, 2013. And really what this slide is letting you know about is when you look under the column of 2013, you can see that was a lot of base functionality that NetSuite customers needed, at that time, because really Rsmart was actually one of the first solutions built on the NetSuite platform, which is great because that means that we've grown the product and we've got a lot of experience around that. But you can see through the years how we've grown and much more has been added, and we continue to do that. NetSuite is a big focus for Rsmart. We are investing a lot of money in this because we want to make sure that we can give customers everything that they need. So it's a constant grow, very similar to NetSuite, how they constantly grow and add functionality to make sure that you're on the latest and greatest. And then you can kind of see what we put in when we kind of look at that 10 million. That's really a focus of, if we look at 2020 and where we are at 2021 so far, that's what we've kind of put into the product. So big focuses. I'm excited, and I think, when we look at our customer base, I see a lot of excitement out there, what's sort of coming out. When we talk about scalability, so businesses start at a lot of different levels. So this is where on the NetSuite side of things, it's very attractive, right? Because you've got many companies that start with QuickBooks and spreadsheets and things like that. And then they start to struggle a little bit, and they need to get onto a system like NetSuite, and maybe work with a partner like Aarialife to help build out how they're going to be doing that. And then the next stage is looking at more automation, right? So really getting on that platform, using it, and then maybe creating some more efficiencies, in the warehouse, right? Usually that's when those things happen. When you're kind of starting up and then moving over, sometimes working manually is okay. If you can start getting more automation in there, it's even better. It's better for the business, but there's sort of a natural growth there. But this is where we see a lot of companies starting to bring in more automation because they want to create more efficiencies. And then along with, as a company grows and it goes into maybe $1 billion company or becomes more of a publicly traded company, that's where we see a lot more, because there's more things going on. There's more needs in a warehouse. There's more organization, more efficiency or tactics that we might take to really get that product in, store it, get it out, sell it, have more money go to the bottom line, etc. When we look at a warehouse, this is kind of a good pictorial, right? This sort of says it all. There's sometimes many different environments in a warehouse, and where Rsmart can help, combined with NetSuite. We talk about inventory control, what's kind of happening there. Maybe we're doing cycle counts or inventory inquiries. It's all mobile. You're not sort of running back and forth to a station. When it comes to fulfillment, again, products coming in, we're storing it, we're getting it into the inventory, into NetSuite. So when those reps are out there selling it, and or if you're dealing with like retail and you've got retail companies calling you because that's where your product sits, the inventory is live. So you've got inventory and you can sell inventory. So it's really important to do that fast versus putting it away and then coming back and stepping in and rekeying it into a terminal. Manufacturing is big. For a long time, manufacturing moves all over the place. It moves from being onshore to offshore to doing lots of different things. It's important that when you've got a manufacturing environment that you're keeping it as efficient as possible, because you're probably storing the product that you're making. But what's happening during that build, and how can we help you be more efficient in that area? When we look at businesses, you can break that down into different verticals like retail. We've got solutions around that. Shipping. When we're looking at shipping and being very efficient from that level, making sure that the product's going out correctly, that it's going out to the right addresses, and that's all being moved into NetSuite or being put into NetSuite originally. These are all things that we work with. And then we talked about receiving, how we're kind of working with that as well. So that's a little bit of a pictorial that gives you an idea. And then even when we look at supply chain automation, I like this because it gives you a little bit of more of a visual. So at the very right, when we look at that warehouse and what's happening, we kind of look at different levels and how we can work here. Now, automation is more of an advanced type of solution. So when you look at conveyor belts or large organizations that are working with these automation solutions, often what happens is they need to get that into their ERP system, in this case being NetSuite. So we actually we have what's called an automation module, and this is a little bit more advanced, but when that's needed, Rsmart can help you with that. So we've got the ability to take those exterior solutions that are more of an automated fashion, put them into the main platform, and then put them into the ERP system seamlessly. So you don't have to look for other connectors or things like that. We've got the ability to do that. So this is really giving you a visual of how that happens. And if anyone's interested in that, we can certainly, let us know through the questions. We can certainly, talk more about that as well. So I want to move on to supply chain efficiency, and I'm going to speed up a little bit just so we have enough time for the demo. But really, where this kind of is important to organizations is there's four main key areas that we look at. We look at supply chain visibility, we look at worker productivity, inventory accuracy, and shipping accuracy. What's important around supply chain visibility is that the supply chain is is having some challenges right now. I mean, just kind of given what we've gone through over the last year. And having that visibility is very important to many organizations to ensure that that they know where things are, whether they're on the water or coming in or being purchased. There's a need to have that visibility. Worker productivity is important because a lot of labor is important to organizations, right? Tracking that labor, it's very expensive. So companies need to be very efficient around that. We can help with that. We can help actually bring more money to the bottom line when it comes to that. Inventory accuracy is really important because depending on what type of company you are, who you're selling inventory to can have a very expensive effect. So an example is if you're working with a retail company, a big box like a Home Depot, and you're shipping out product and that product is incorrect, not only do you have to pay as an organization to have that product come back, but you could get fined from that retail organization. So it's really important to make sure that that is efficient when it goes out. And then that kind of lines in with the shipping, because I touched on that a little bit as well. So accuracy. All of these areas are value to an organization, and we can help measure that. So if you are interested in Rsmart, we can certainly look at that and help measure and give you some ROI numbers along with that, which is really what that next slide is saying. So we can help with this. We can really give you an understanding of how you can save with Rsmart and create more efficiencies within your environment. And then if you are a customer that decides to kind of move in and partner up with Rsmart and NetSuite combined, possibly Aarialife as well, really this is sort of a look at our implementation plan on how we work with you with a startup phase. We have a planning phase, we've got configure and testing phases, we've got go live, and then we manage you to make sure that you are utilizing what you need and that we're helping you with your business and what your business needs are. Also, we've got an extensive knowledge base. So obviously, we've got support 24/7, but we also give you the ability to look up things. It's very easy. You can key in the information, and it'll take you to where you need to. Plus, we've got other areas you can click on. It's very much like NetSuite too in that sense, where they've got that search base as well. We talked about being a software provider. We're also a hardware provider. We sync together, so you're not calling, hey, I've got a problem with my hardware, and now it's affecting the software. Now you've got to call the software because we're one company. We supply all of that. We've got the ability to do so. And then, we've got lots of customer success stories. Happy to share these with you at any time when we talk in the future. And lastly, we've got a fantastic podcast. At the very least, if you want to learn more, there's so many episodes on here that are helpful to so many companies. We've got customer testimonials. We've got discussions on implementing and best practices around there. We've got segments on counting. If you want to learn more, this is a fantastic area as well. But on that note, I am done. Sorry, I think I went a little bit over, but I'm going to pass this over to Kyle, and we're going to give you a visual of Rsmart and NetSuite high level. And like I said, if anyone is interested in learning more, wants to dig deeper, we can certainly put it in the chat. We can circle back with you and make sure that we engage to talk a little bit more. So Kyle, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome, thank you, Ruth. As it was mentioned from the Rsmart standpoint, we are a native suite app. So here to your left, the depiction I'm really trying to paint here is the visualization to kind of see where the transactions are being posted, as well as where the data really is stemming from, right? So since we are natively built into NetSuite, all of the inventory, the transactions, the items, all of that information is really being extracted from NetSuite, and Rsmart is really capturing that information and going to be doing transactions against certain data and then posting those transactions in real time, which give you real-time visibility to things of that nature. So you see that as my left-hand side of the screen. In the right-hand side of the screen, envision me being a warehouse user. I'm going to go around and really do my transactions, right? Am I doing a receiving, put away process, picking, and let's say inventory counts, things of that nature? That is all things I'd be doing here on the right-hand side as a warehouse user. So let's start out with purchase order receiving, kind of starting out with a purchase order. As you see, NetSuite is kind of pulled up here, where I have different values, different items, and things of that nature that'll essentially tell the user exactly what they're due to receive. And really the intention here is them to be scanning and receiving the product to write back to NetSuite to provide an item receipt. As you saw, I've done that partially with a purchase order that we'll be using today, and updating those values. So again, the inventory is accredited in NetSuite as it currently stands when I pull up any kind of data in NetSuite. So an important note before we jump in is we do provide the ability for tally scanning if that is applicable to your situation. We certainly don't have to enter in quantities, but that tally scanning, there's a handful of different functions that give that capability if that is applicable for your business. All right, so let's start out with the purchase order. Typically, this is where I would type it in, scan it in. I'd have it on a packing slip. In the instance that you didn't, there is a couple different ways to really fetch that purchase order number. I can fetch it from the list, correlate it to a vendor code, things of that nature. But I will actually be going through a live demonstration, so I'm going to be scanning. So this right-hand device, I am acting as if I am about to receive in a purchase order out on the warehouse floor, utilizing the PO number that I was provided. So as I go through this particular process, let's say I receive the first product on my list here. One thing to always note is that we do provide the ability to apply item labels. And really the intention there, again, is to receive the item into the facility. So what I would do here is go ahead and scan my first product. I think it's also worth mentioning we work with multi-UPCs, multiple units of measure. You'll see that consistency there. So if I were to scan the incorrect barcode, the incorrect item, we do provide kind of gotcha messages. So just so the user is aware of what they're doing and ensuring that they're really receiving the right product, the right units of measure, things of that nature. So within this particular section, you can note that I can update that UPC that we kind of talked about, our custom multi-UPC options and the units of measure. I can go ahead and print labels, the item labels if I'd like, or I could trigger automatic labels as well. So there's plenty of options that are out there. For this particular item, I am going to not tally scan. This will be the version of quantity entry. Let's say I receive in this full quantity for this particular item, which you'll see is the green connotation notating to the user that, hey, I've received in this entire line. I'm really done with this particular product. I can move on to the next item on my list. So let's jump over to a second item that I have here. And this one will kind of trigger a partial. So let's say I receive in half. Maybe I find half of the product on the bottom of the pallet, and then I receive the second half of the pallet, maybe on another pallet or in another box. In this instance, since it is a partial, I was expected to receive 100. I received in 40, at least on this first go. We do highlight or notate that line as yellow to, again, signify to the user that there is a partial receipt for this particular line. I can certainly get back into it and receive the rest of that inventory if I need to. And again, you'll see that notation of it jumping to green, signifying that I'm really done with that particular line and I'm ready to go. So there are also some cross-dock notifications, which are those truck icons that provide some visibility to back orders, things of that nature. So that's really the quick rundown as far as the receiving, is concerned, from how it writes from NetSuite to Rsmart, and then from Rsmart back to NetSuite. I would hit submit here, create my item receipt, and then go back to the KPIs, the ROI investments that Ruth hit on previously. So now that I've received in my product, and I'll save this example, let's jump over to really talk about more of a bin environment. So in a bin environment, there is a process that is typically a two-step. It can be a one-step, but it is an option out here, really, that is, again, strictly for those bin environments. We do work with non-bin environments, so I do want to make sure that is mentioned as well. You can certainly receive a product straight to a location, just as you can in NetSuite. We do that within Rsmart, obviously with that QC, that validating, the label printing, all of that being done on the handheld, out on the warehouse floor, and not needing to come in NetSuite as a employee and do anything in here. We're really writing all of that information back to NetSuite. So again, shifting gears to that bin environment, let's say I received in that PO to a receiving dock, and it's really just waiting to be put away, staged. Again, this is an optional piece. What I would do here is can have a list of the items that are in this receiving dock that I'm waiting to be put away. This can be one user, multiple users, but in this process, I would be scanning in my particular product that I plan to move. And when we say move, we mean put away to its designated bin. So below, you'll note that there is a list of bins that is being displayed here. This is really for assistance with like bin consolidation, right? So if I want to consolidate this particular item where it currently already resides, if I have 150 units, maybe even 50, so on and so forth, I can start to consolidate, give a direction to the user to help them take away some of the guesswork. We do work with preferred bins, just as NetSuite does, where I can kind of drive the user to preferred bin logic. And you can also utilize some capacity limits at the bin and item level as well, which Rsmart certainly provides a thorough extension from the product that NetSuite, some of the information that's there, like the multi-UPC, bin replenishment requirements, things like that, that Rsmart's taken a step further than just the NetSuite item record. It's still on that same record, but as an extension and enhancement really is the best way to look at it. So let's say I want to move this particular 150 units. I could bin transfer this. That's really what this is bin transfer the inventory from that receiving dock to its designated bin. And I would just scan the bin in this instance or select it from the list. Also have that capability to set a preferred bin if I'd like, and I can certainly trigger that as well. I'm going to hit submit on this particular process, and then I would trigger that bin transfer here. All right, so to kind of shift gears, let's go ahead and jump into a sales order that I have. So what we'll be displaying here is the intention of a simple order pick. And before I jump to that, let me go back to the gun just to give some visibility here. And this is the handheld here. Let's go to my picking options. I'll just hit very quickly on some of these. So there are multiple picking options where I can pick multiple orders at once, but today we're really focused on simple picking, one order at a time picking, but there is capability within Rsmart to do tally scanning, one order picking, or multiple picking, meaning multiple sales orders, or even bulking multiple sales orders and picking them all in a streamlined fashion. So multiple ways to pick. Depending on the industry, certain fits will make a little bit more sense and where those areas will come into play. So I have my sales order again. NetSuite is the driving force, my source of truth. I have my items, my commitments, and a rundown as far as these are the items to pick on my list. So let's go ahead and get into sales order picking, and this one we'll refer to as single, right? This single order picking. You'll note that there are a bunch of different options here to kind of go paperless and a bunch of different filtering options. So if I didn't want to carry around a pick ticket or have a traveler, I could utilize some form of paperless picking. But if you are going the route of native NetSuite pick tickets and you really like that traveler maybe to act as a packing slip, you can certainly utilize that same barcode. And in this instance, let's visualize that I have a pick ticket. Someone handed it to me and said, hey, this is going to be the packing slip, but it's also the pick ticket. We've certainly seen that being done in the industry. But it would have options to go paperless, right? Pick my pickers, show the orders that are assigned to this picker. I have a bunch of different other filtering options. Again, that I can start to formulate the orders that are assigned to me as well as the orders that pull in general. So let's visualize this from the perspective of just scanning a pick ticket. So again, you'll see that consistency, red, yellow, green across the board. You also get imagery. I don't believe I mentioned that on the previous screen, but as I do any kind of transaction in Rsmart, I do have the ability to have imagery or a depiction, a picture of the item as I'm counting it, as I'm transferring it, picking it, receiving it, you name it. We're certainly trying to give a visualization to the user to kind of make sure that extra validation is there. So if he's kind of more of a visual learner, I have that look when I touch a product, I can mirror it up to, okay, the device is showing this image. Yep, this is the exact same one. Obviously, scanning will help with that as well, but sometimes that visualization for certain warehouse employees will serve a lot of value. And so you see from this particular list, I have that same match up as far as what items to be picked in a bin environment. And again, we do work in non-bin environments where we do not suggest the user to a bin. But let's conceptually look at this from a bin environment in this instance. So what we are doing is suggesting a bin to you, meaning for the particular warehouse user, we are directing them based on picking logic. So that can be FIFO, preferred bin, best bin, which again, we can certainly elaborate on, at a later time if need be. So in this particular process, really as a warehouse user, I'm being told, go to TAM 1 to pick this particular item, go to TAM 2 to pick this particular item. So it is a driving force or a guided step and process for my user to go out in the facility and not have to guess where products are. He knows exactly where they are. And again, driving some of that FIFO logic if you do utilize some of those bin environments. So let's go ahead and scan the first product. Again, bin environments will ask you, hey, what bin are you picking this from? We do provide the ability to hit alternate bins, so I can pick from alternative bins if I didn't want to pick from the bin that was suggested to me. I can certainly pick from an alternative bin that is certainly applicable in this environment as well. Let's go ahead and say I scan the right bin that's suggested to me in this instance, and you'll see that same notation of green and dropping down to the bottom of the list so the user knows visually, hey, I have 2 more lines that I have to pick here. Rinse and repeat from here, the same process. Again, that tally scanning capability is available at your discretion as well within sales order picking, and continuously go through this process, hitting submit. So once I hit submit here, we will go ahead and trigger an item fulfillment just as you would in NetSuite if I were demanding it filled. But I do have the extra step of validating. I've done my label printing at the receiving side. Now I'm validating as I scan, as I pick. I kind of prevent some of the mispicks, things of that nature. Within sales order picking, you could trigger a master packing slip or a packing slip to print as well, if that's applicable to your business. So you will have additional options there as well. So now that I've picked this sales order, really the next phase is to pack and ship it out the door. I want to maybe throw in a packing slip. Maybe I didn't print it off at the picking or the shipping side. Or at the picking side, I can do it at the shipping station or the packing station is what we refer to it as. So when I refresh my screen here, you'll see my item fulfillment being generated. My pick columns start to formulate in here. I have my item fulfillment being created, KPIs, all of that information, again, being tracked by the user specifically for him. So I am going to put down theoretically the device going forward for this next section. So this is what we refer to as a pack station. This is really from a desktop perspective that I would have like a wedge scanner. Envision this more of a packing area. I think packing station is probably the best word to use. But I have my boxes maybe off the conveyor. Someone's already picked them. Pick the orders. The orders are really stacked. They're really free, loose. They're not exactly packed into their boxes that they're going to go on the outbound side where I would apply labels to. In this process, and we'll talk about ways that you can certainly go about it from a different perspective. So load this particular sales order that I have here and scan this guy or type it in. If I need to, I can certainly do this one. And I believe that's the one that I'm looking at from that perspective. So let's utilize this example, the one that we're kind of already working on. Start. So from this perspective, let's say I have free loose items and I have to repackage my materials. That is one way to do it. We'll talk about here in a second how if I ship products in, let's say, case quantities, or I ship them as is, meaning I store them in a box, but I sell that same box to the end consumer, there is options to kind of suppress this box selection screen. Well, let's first start out kind of basic where I'm repackaging material. I have a handful of loose items that I'm really packing into a box, throwing a shipping label onto the box and tossing in maybe a packing slip if I need to. So from the user perspective, again, from the desktop, I'm using a wedge scanner. I would select the box that I plan to utilize first to pick these items into. I can change it if I need to. It's certainly not set in stone in that perspective. So let's say, and I'll click, but this obviously would be where I'd come into play with some scanning. I will scan the product into the box. And now I've theoretically packed 3 items into this box, and I'm really ready to go to really tape up this box and be done with it. From the shipping individually standpoint, is where we mentioned that, let's say you sell case quantities, things of that nature, or maybe even the products are already sold. Think of like a desk or something like that that is so large that you really don't repackage it, you just sell it as it is, since it's already prepackaged from the vendor, from the manufacturer. Maybe I could trigger something to ship individually. What that does is create a box record that does not require the user to really select the box they're going to choose. We pull over the dimensions from the item and create a box record for you. So there is no selection, as if you saw on that previous screen where I would really be packing things into their individual boxes. So this is really a thorough QC or QA check of what was picked is actually being packed. So it can kind of act as if a QC or QA kind of take away that extra step. Really, as I'm packing and shipping, it can serve that same value there. So I will be scanning barcodes as I go through. There are scale integration options available as well if I want to weigh these boxes, and to kind of segue into some rate shopping. If I wanted to utilize rate shopping, that's kind of where scale integration will certainly help out as well. I can rate shopping against multiple different carriers, get the best price for those rates and for these particular boxes or this shipment in general, and select that, and obviously update that item fulfillment record if I do change the shipping method dependent on what the original shipping method was. So a couple different options: shipping or bring off the packing slip. We do provide a master packing slip as well if you want to take it a step further, as well as once I hit submit, as it was mentioned, printing off those integrated shipping labels or non-carrier shipping labels. It doesn't necessarily have to just be shipping labels. We also work with non-carrier shipping labels as well. Once I hit submit there, we will update the item fulfillment record to shipped, and we do create package box records per box, as well as providing tracking information to the boxes. So if you're pulling up an order, finding the fulfillment, and you say, okay, I'm trying to track down a box, we do provide the true tracking number from the carrier that is provided by the box, again, for some auditing or maybe some back-end checking. So that really runs us through the receiving side, the inbound, as well as picking, and then really the outbound. So inbound and outbound process, obviously a lot more in the middle, somewhere in the middle area, but we're certainly happy to have you guys today and do this demonstration. So without further ado, let me pass the baton back over here.
Thanks, Kyle, while you're doing that. I wanted to mention too, just for fun, what we've done is what we're going to, we have a giveaway of a $50 Amex card. So what we've done is we've taken all the attendees today and we're sort of putting them into an area where we can pick one name out, and then that person will win a $50 gift card on behalf of Rsmart for the group today. Let's see here.
Thank you, Ruth. So, guys, I mean, one of the ways that we're going to decide on who wins that giveaway is the folks who are participating the most in the polls, right? So please do make sure you answer the poll questions, and also we're going to open up the floor to any questions that you might have based on today's webinar that we have seen. You can click on the questions tab on your left-hand side, post in your questions. Thank you. So I'm going to start off the poll. Some of the other polls, and you can access them and answer your questions at your convenience while you're still here.
And while you're doing that too on the poll side, I'll just kind of get the name and draw that before everybody exits today.
Sure.
Great.
Right, so folks are answering questions. Thank you for that. Do post your questions based on what you saw today, or if you have any more requirements that you'd like to get clarification on. We thank you that all of you found the information helpful today based on the polls. but we haven't received any questions, guys. I think Kyle did an excellent job. So if there you go, we've got. Yes, please go ahead with your question, Danny. You're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself. If you're having difficulty, there you go. Perfect, Danny. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, good. No, just wondering, for this Rsmart, I'm seeing in the demos that we have to input a lot of the information by hand. Is there any kind of like a UPC code or some kind of code scanning integration for this system?
Yes, there is. So you would typically CSV upload all of that data beforehand. So that's one way to do it. There is also functionality in Rsmart that allow you to update those UPCs from the device as well. So it is very much barcode driven, but you don't necessarily need a barcode to utilize Rsmart. Although I'd say it's certainly a nice to have.
I see, because our company right now is mostly most of the items are not UPC code or anything, but we want to integrate some of these automations in the ERP system. So that's something that we're thinking of doing.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, you could select it from the list. You don't have to always collect the UPC. So as I was scanning those particular barcodes, I could map it to the item. Another option for you is if you do kind of envision that you want to kind of enforce more scanning, start to apply UPC labels to your products, you could do that all at the receiving side, or again in some of the other Rsmart functions that'll really start to apply barcodes or UPCs to your products if they're not already barcoded.
Would there be any guide for that, or maybe that's another topic, but maybe that's something that we are interested in knowing more as well, for the integration part for the G10s and GS1.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And Danny, we can get in contact after as well too, and we could set up a call and kind of get you some more information if needed.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you for that, Danny. Anybody else have any questions?
I'll leave it open for a minute.
Yep.
And then before we do exit, I do have an announcement of the winner as well too, because we're sort of drawing in between in the background. So I'll make sure we get through the questions first before we announce that.
Sure. Thank you for that, Ruth.
No problem. No other questions?
I'm not getting any questions as
Okay.
of the moment. We will be ending the webinar soon. So folks, if you have any questions, now is a good time. Okay. I think we've got a very intelligent audience. They've understood everything. So we appreciate that. And Ruth, whenever you're ready with the draw, let me know.
Great. Ironically, as we kind of did all this too, Danny saying is actually the winner of the draw. And Danny, we've got your information too. So I will send you an email regardless, just to get some information to send you this gift card. And, on behalf of Rsmart, I just want to, thank first Aarialife for having us a part of this. And then also thank you for taking the time to join. And as always, if you ever have any questions or anything like that, we're here to connect with you and talk more about warehouse and warehouse needs along with Aarialife.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so
So
much.
congratulations, Danny. You're the winner, and we look forward to getting in touch with you and making sure that Ruth gets in touch with you for the giveaway. We appreciate everybody else who has attended. I hope you found this information valuable in terms of knowledge and what we're trying to achieve here. Wish you a very great rest of the week. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.